See, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. See, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing.
By the rates the U.S. will charge other countries.
Well, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that.
To justify the rates the U.S. will charge other countries in, quote, reciprocal tariffs, unquote, President Donald Trump shared a chart that purported to list the tariffs other countries impose on U.S. imports, quote, including currency manipulation and trade barriers, unquote. But that's not what the chart actually shows. Instead, the math went like this. The size of a country's trade imbalance with the US in goods divided by how much America imports in goods from that nation. For example, in 2024, the US goods trade deficit with the EU was $235.6 billion. That year, the US imported $605.8 billion worth of goods from the EU. So $235.6 billion divided by $605.8 billion is 38.9%, or rounded up, 39%. Trump said the U.S. would enact tariffs on imports from those countries at only half those rates, so the U.S. will enact a tariff of 20% on goods from the EU. Never mind that, according to the World Trade Organization, the EU's trade-weighted average tariff rate is 2.7%. 11 economists told us the administration's math is simply not a legitimate way to calculate reciprocal tariffs for countries. Get the full story at factcheck.org.
Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that.